Read this before you draw a trend line. Before you draw a trend line on any chart, ensure it's not an operator stock and price action is smooth. In both cases, it's better to avoid them as there is a high probability of hitting your stop loss. Some of the examples are below. If you look at image 2.1, it has a lot of selling wicks and buying wicks, which are not suitable for this type of trading. It can trigger your buy order or stop loss order and can move in the opposite direction. It's better to avoid such scripts. Another example is shown in image 2.2. It has too many gap scenarios which are not suitable for this type of trading. It's better to avoid such scripts. If you look at image 2.3, it has too many gaps and no activity on many trading days. It clearly shows that some operators are controlling this stock. It's better to avoid such scripts. I don't want to fill this book with too many such useless charts. I hope this information is clear. If you get confused when you see a chart, you can always move on to other scripts as there is no rule to trade in that particular script itself. What is trend line? A trend line is a straight line drawn on a chart by connecting two or more price peaks, which reveal the trend of the script, support and resistance points, and allows to spot any excellent trade opportunities. A trend line speaks more than words do. Below are some useful references to draw a trend line. 1. Price peaks. 2. The slope of the trend line. And 3. The price should respect the trend line. We need to consider 6 months to 1 year duration chart for this system as our maximum holding period is just 2 weeks. We do not need to know what happened beyond 1 year back as our holding period is less. Besides, our stop loss management process will take care of any impact of the crucial price points which occurred before 1 year back. Price peaks. You should connect a minimum of 2 peaks to consider it as a valid trend line. Above is the example of a trend line that connected 3 peaks. It can also be called as a support trend line. Image 2.5 shows another example of a trend line that connected 5 peaks. It can also be considered as a resistance trend line. A trend line can be considered as a powerful trend line when it connects more number of peaks. The trend line drawn in image 2.6 is potent as it connects 8 peaks. We should note that when a price shows a decisive break of the trend line, it will give a quick and big move on the opposite side. The slope of the trend line. Ideally, the trend line that shows less to medium slope, less than 45 degrees, is the safer bet, because this is the sign of a healthy trend. As the slope of a trend line increases, the validity of the support or resistance level decreases. A steep trend line results from a sharp advance or decline over a brief period. The trend line created from such quick moves is unlikely to offer a strong support or resistance level. Even if the trend line is connected with 3 or more valid points, attempting to take a trade is not a good idea. Image 2.7 shows an example of a steep trend line. It is not a healthy sign of a trend, and most probably this script is the victim of operators. The price should respect trend line. Whenever you draw a trend line, ensure price respects the trend line with all its peaks. Image 2.8 shows a trend line that is respected by all the peaks of the price. Hence, this is a powerful trend line. Image 2.9 shows a trend line that is not respected by all the peaks of the price. Hence, this is not a powerful trend line. Always remember, drawing a trend line is subjective and art. Don't get into arguments or discussions with anyone over any trend line. Remember the guidelines mentioned earlier whenever you try to draw a trend line. In this book, I'm willing to provide more emphasis only on the resistance trend line, as this book is designed for retail traders who start with a small capital. Due to their low capital, they can afford to take their breakout trades only in equities. Because taking trades in futures requires significant capital as per money management rules, which I'm going to explain later. Hence, they will not be able to opt for short trades. I will show some of the charts below only to indicate how I prefer to draw the trend lines considering the rules mentioned above. By this time, you should have got some clarity on what kind of scripts you are looking for and how to draw solid trend lines. Summary. We look at only daily charts with 6 months to 1 year duration to draw a trend line. We don't consider charts that don't have smooth price action. When a trend line connects more peaks, it will become a dominant trend line, and the break of such a trend line gives big moves. The slope of the trend line should be less than 45 degrees. The price should respect the trend line at all peak points. Drawing the trend line is an art and it's subjective. So, there is no need to debate